Stellar XLM has just some absolute mind-bending new news that has come out because of a good friend of mine, okay? This guy has actually gone out and found this connection that no one seems to be talking about that really is game-changing. And guess what? It's going to have massive implications now, like in July, right? We're going to get into why in just a second. But first of all, I would like to draw your attention to the gentleman that actually found this important news, and that's DHN. So if you're watching this video and you aren't subscribed to Wade, I'm telling you right now, this guy is 10x better than me in every capacity. And I'm telling you right now, you will learn something new every single video. This guy goes into so much depth, and that was how I was able to find the information in this video. So Wade goes over pretty much what I'm going to talk about today in this video right here. So please, I'll leave the link into his channel down below. Go and subscribe. I'm telling you, you are not doing yourself justice if you do not. Okay, so what Wade was able to find was that the FedNow service, as hopefully all of us should know, especially US citizens, is coming live in July, like this month, right, towards the end of the month. And it's pretty much like the instant payment solution that the US is implementing. So it can pretty much have all financial institutions, central banks, large banks, small banks, all can communicate together in a very seamless way, pretty much producing instant transactions. And these guys leverage the ISO 20022 standard everyone keeps raving on about to actually make these transfers happen. So the whole world essentially will move to the ISO standard, and then obviously the FedNow service will have everything integrated all in one, okay? So where this news gets kind of insane, I'm going to have to tie into it in a couple of minutes, but I want to take you through exactly what's actually happening here. So of course, as I mentioned, right, the FedNow is pretty much coming online this month, late July, and the initial setup is going to grow, but first of all, they're looking to integrate. And then as you can see down here, they want to actually onboard all 10,000 US financial institutions. So there's going to be a lot of upside here for any integration with crypto projects actually being leveraged in this capacity, which, spoiler alert, Stellar XLM is. And I'm going to obviously show you how. So as you can see, yeah, these are all the participants, but down here we have the service providers, which are just as important, obviously, because these are the people providing the service for these guys, right? The participants. Now, Temenos is one of these such partners. Now, there is quite a few of these partners linked to Ripple, which is very important, and Wade does go over that in a separate video. But for Stellar, right, we have to look at this partner particularly here, right? This provider, Temenos. And let me just take you through exactly how it's connected to Stellar, right? Because Wade had to go through some massive hoops to find this information, but it is definitely there, okay? So if we jump over to Stellar's integration partners website here on the page at least, we can see they're partnered with BP Ventures. Now, who the hell are BP Ventures? Well, they're a fintech consulting solution, and they help financial institutions cut out costs, improve security, simplify procedures, and increase revenue by integrating emerging technologies into their business, okay? So yeah, it's pretty well self-explanatory, right? And so the way it kind of all integrates back in is recently, as of April this year, Stellar actually became ISO 20022 compliant. Now, we always hear about altcoins and, you know, those famous, what are they like, those famous 8 or 9 altcoins being ISO 20022 compliant. Well, the fact of the matter is, a lot of them actually officially aren't, but Stellar now actually is, right? Because of BP Ventures. They allowed Stellar to now open up to, as they say here, $1 trillion market with Circle USDC. So obviously Circle is leveraged with MoneyGram, and it's all kind of interconnected in this case. But nevertheless, because of BP Ventures, these guys back here, now obviously Stellar has access to ISO 20022. But the reason why it's so effective and has access and kind of a link into the FedNow service is because of who BP Ventures are actually working with. Let me continue, but first of all, I want to kind of go into that a little bit more, right? So let's talk about the ISO 20022 standard here. So BP Ventures, a blockchain consulting and software firm, has completed development and support for ISO 20022 on the Stellar blockchain. The move will, as I said before, open up possibilities for trillions of dollars worth of financial sector transfer volume, which, as we all know, you know, the world is moving to become ISO 20022 compliant. I swear someone needs to come up with an easier way to say that, just the ISO standard I'm going to refer to it as. And so obviously that's the whole world's economy, the trillions of dollars every single year being moved around, okay? So if Stellar can link into that and then be, say, you know, part of it with MoneyGram, for example, which has like 400,000 plus locations and they're in, you know, over 200 countries, we can then, you know, bank the unbanked. So I had someone in my last video say to me, Kyron, well, how do you bank the unbanked? Well, as long as you essentially have access to a MoneyGram location or access to a, any Android or mobile iOS device, and then you have the MoneyGram app, you can then become, have your own bank account, right? You can obviously use the platform to, on and off board money and then use DeFi services. So as long as you have any sort of connection to a physical location with MoneyGram or obviously an application on your phone, you have access to the expanse world of DeFi and of course, Stellar and Soroban, right? So let's move on. Their standard is already used by many real-time clearing systems around the world, such as Swift, SEPA in Europe, faster payments in the UK, and now, of course, it's going to be leveraged by the FedNow service in the US. Some really, really big stuff, right? So BPV has developed ISO 200 support for Stellar's standardized KYC rails. Now, payments and other asset transfers will be able to leverage the benefits of Stellar. So again, two different things. You have the FedNow, you have ISO. The FedNow is leveraging the ISO standard. It's just pretty much like in crypto, right? The way we can transfer more complicated message between blockchains makes a difference, right? We have the standard token bridges. You can only pretty much just transfer tokens to A to B. Well, now because crypto is growing, we have these more complicated methods where I can pretty much contact a dApp on a different network and then tell that dApp in the same transfer to communicate and do 10 other procedures before sending that transaction back in one message. So that's kind of like what ISO allows functionality to happen, okay? So here's where it kind of links back in, right? So way back in, I think 2020, this is active since 2020, there was Stellar Community Fund number 10 here. BP Ventures was awarded this for $125,000. And as Wade actually goes over, there was a few steps here, but the really important thing we're going to get to is this, right? Integrate into Temenos, opening up to 1,600 banks and credit unions to the Stellar blockchain. Guys, what did we say at the very start of the video? Who's a service provider? Temenos. Guys, this is some really, really big stuff. Again, shout out to Wade. You need to follow this guy because he's the only one I've heard reporting on this sort of stuff, right? So what do they also say? Well, step 2, our Anchor-in-a-Box solution allows MSBs to connect to Stellar as a payment rail for easy cash in and out of USDC via that proposal, as well as directly sell USDC. So this is a really cool part, right? So step 3, so this is a part of the whole process. Expanded Stellar blockchain use through BP's white label customized DeFi dashboard solution. So what this essentially kind of means is this dashboard here that allows any BP customer, by the way, who are white label service, meaning they don't have to actually publicly say, hey, we're using this infrastructure. They can kind of market it as their own infrastructure, kind of like Quant in a way. Essentially, like that can be leveraged in every single sort of customer of BP's, right? And so obviously the range and the scope of this obviously pretty much can't be observed, right? Because it's a white label service, but it's great because it's going to be obviously more applicable and interesting, intriguing for these customers, right? Who obviously don't want to have to obviously say, hey, we're using XYZ company, who just want to be discreet and use their own sort of software, as you can see here. So it's some really, really big stuff happening. And again, this has been active since 2020. So we're pretty much, well, I'm at least very comfortable saying that this integration here with Temenos, Stellar is obviously going to be somewhat connected to the FedNow service, which is very, very important. Now, again, I want to point out, MoneyGram is also linked in here. So as I mentioned before with like banking the unbanked, of course, you have MoneyGram here essentially being that physical store and location and also having that easy to use application. Now partnering with USDC, leveraging Stellar as well to kind of, again, bank the unbanked rather. So this is massive, right? Because now you have Stellar being actually connected to a service provider in the FedNow system, which is going to be the system all financial services, as they mentioned, 10,000 services in the US using, and it's also ISO 222 compliant, meaning that it's going to be able to connect to any sort of service, instant payment service, whatever country that may be, right? So we have some really important things happening beneath the surface here that unless you know where to look, it's impossible to find until it's too late. And when it's too late, obviously demand begins to grow, and then, we're going to obviously be buying in at super high prices or just miss the boat altogether. It's kind of like just us on that crazy dartboard like you see in that meme, connecting the dots with the ribbons, right? So again, big shout out to Wade. You're doing yourself an injustice by not following him, and I wouldn't have known about this if he didn't put that hard work in. So guys, please like this video, hit subscribe for more content, and go follow Wade. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.